All right, guys, welcome back. Welcome back. So we was having some audio technical difficulties, but hopefully, when I get our guest speaker back on here, we will be good to go. So yeah, I'm excited. Like I was telling you guys, I'm excited that we have this platform and we can have people share their story, talk about grief, how they're overcoming, and just being able to navigate, throughout grief. So hopefully we can get this conversation started. And let me approve. All right, I'm crossing my fingers. Hopefully I can hear.
How about now?
Okay, hold on.
How about now? Now
Okay.
listen, I'm logged in on my laptop too. So just in case you need me to go on my laptop.
I can hear you clear now. Perfect.
You can hear me clear now?
Now I
Oh, so you
literally have
did
my
something.
phone on the ring light and I don't know if it was like blocking the sound, but I don't think so. But I can hear you perfect now. I just gotta hold my phone. That's it. Yeah. So
Okay.
how are you today? I'm good.
I'm doing
I'm
good. How are you?
excited. I can hear you now.
It's okay. Technical difficulties, it happens. So I definitely thank you for having me on. So definitely appreciate you
Absolutely.
so much.
So this is pretty much a platform for the people who don't know me. My name is Ebony Gibson. I created a brand called Can I Grieve, which actually launched last October, where I pretty much created the brand to inspire, to encourage, and to educate people to rise above grief. And so lately, I've just been using my platform to connect with and to collaborate with other people, grief survivors, or people who have experienced grief in some type of way. Just allowing them to share their story as well as me sharing my story and us just kind of connecting and educating people, and encouraging
Hmm.
people because this is something that we all go through. And so I'm going to tell the backstory of how actually
Hmm.
me and you got connected for those who don't know. And then I'm going to allow you to go ahead and start sharing your story, okay? So, when I launched the brand,
Okay.
a really good friend, Miss Debbie, which happens to be your aunt, she reached out to me and she was telling me she wanted to purchase two of my hoodies for you and your wife. And so, in the midst of that, she actually sent
Hmm.
me a YouTube video of an interview that you did with a young lady. And I actually ended up watching the interview because I was just curious. And when I watched the interview, I was just moved
Hmm.
to tears by your story. And I was just like, I gotta find him. And then I found you on Instagram, and then we kind of just been connected ever since. So it's crazy how life works.
Listen,
Hmm.
that is crazy.
No, you
So,
good.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. So, all right. So
Okay.
Debbie's my cousin, right? So I had after
Hmm.
my daughter had passed, I had started following a lot of inspirational grieving
Hmm.
social media platforms. And some type of way I came across your hoodie. And I looked at my queen and I said, man, I like these hoodies a lot because it pretty much says everything like how I'm feeling, but it's pretty much saying it for me. So
Right.
I won't have to say it for myself. So I went to I think this was like maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And then my cousin, then Debbie hit me up and
Hmm.
she asked me for my size. Now she didn't tell me what
Right.
she was getting. She just asked me for my size. So then when it came, I was like, so I showed it to my wife. I was like, man, look,
Hmm.
this is the exact same hoodie that's what that we was gonna get. And I had told Debbie that. I said, man, Debbie, man, you don't know how much this means to us because we literally was just talking about this not too long ago. For you to send it, like,
Exactly.
shout out to Debbie, man. I love
He's
her, man.
awesome.
I love my family. So um yeah, she sent that for me. So that meant a lot. That meant a lot to me. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it for that.
Well,
So
that's
um During
Yeah,
that
so I was
time,
just gonna
you
pretty
want me to
much
go
say
ahead?
for my followers and people that don't know you, I would love for you to just share, your story, who you are, whatever you want to share.
Mhm. Okay. So my name is Terence Doctor. Um, I have an amazing queen, Joni. I have three children, Cameron, Peyton, and Elle. Elle was born on March 31st of 2021, and she passed away April 3rd of 2021. So we're literally coming up on
Wow.
her birthday this Thursday, first birthday. Um, so I'm extremely active in my community, love my family. Um, but grieving it was tough. It's tough. This is unlike any other pain I've ever felt in my life. It's a different type of uh pain, different type of feeling. Um, I've said a while ago, as far as on several interviews I've done, as far as it's different when you lose like family members or friends. Of course, it hurts, but when you have to bury a child, it's like a different type of pain and grief. And like I said, this month has been particularly tough, basically because it's her birthday month. So in literally 2 days, we're supposed to be planning a birthday party and going out and doing some kid stuff, you know what I'm saying? But, unfortunately, we have to, kind of just do things a different way to celebrate her. So it's been tough, but just a day at a time. We're just trying to take everything a day at a time, me and my queen and my family. So that was
Okay.
the short version.
I didn't even know the
Um
anniversary was coming up. That's so crazy that I was like, let's schedule this live. I didn't even know.
yeah, yeah, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not, because though my
Mm-hmm.
daughter isn't here physically, like she's
Yeah.
still here spiritually. So I still wanted to, like, anytime I get an opportunity to speak on how she's made an impact on my life, even though she was here for 3 days, I definitely see it as a moment to honestly just share her life and her story with the world, and to just let others know that she was actually here. Like she was here, and though it was brief, we're gonna try our best to live each day for
Right.
her physically, but spiritually, she's gonna be here with us. So, um, yeah, in 2 days she would have
Wow.
been one. So, is my
Hold
other
on, wait a
cousin in
minute.
here?
Don't tell me it's a smaller world. It's getting smaller.
Hold on, is my other cousin in here?
I
Is that
see a
Tawanda?
Tawanda.
I think that's my cousin. Hey,
Okay.
Tawanda. Hmm. It's my family. That's
Okay,
my South
yeah.
Boston
That's where I
family.
know Kevin from.
South Boston.
Okay.
Hmm.
So, what
Yeah.
stage of grief would you say you're in, if any? Okay.
Anger.
Okay.
Anger. Definitely in anger. Um, just being transparent. I think that is
Mm-hmm.
like, I believe in God. I definitely believe in, his power and all that stuff, but there's
Yeah.
always the question of
Mm-hmm.
why did this happen? So understanding that, he has the power to answer or not answer or give me an answer that, just like right now, I'm just stuck on like how and why. My daughter passed away, but she passed away because of seizures. So that's what ultimately um, ended
Mm-hmm.
her brief life. We were at the hospital, and the doctors had to run a series of tests, on my queen, and they ultimately decided that they had
Mm.
to do a C-section. We were familiar with the C-section because um, our first daughter together,
Okay.
Peyton, she was C-section, and she came at 35 weeks too, just like Elle did. So
Mm-hmm.
when you've kind of experienced something one time, when you're presented with the same kind of somewhat scenario, you
It
tend to
does
kind of like, well, I'm not really worried because we were here in NICU before, so
make it
we made
through.
it. We
That's
made it
right.
through once. We'll make it through again. So exactly. So during that time, with our first daughter, like my wife was having her blood pressure was extremely high, so
Mm-hmm.
she had preeclampsia. So her blood pressure was extremely high, so that's why they had to do the emergency C-section with our daughter Peyton. With Elle,
Mhm.
my wife's blood pressure was fine. It was like the opposite. Everything with her was fine, but the movements from Elle
Mhm.
weren't looking right. So the doctors ultimately decided that they wanted to do a C-section. So like I said before, we weren't worried. We've been in NICU before.
Right.
We're good. We're fine. So we we're in the delivery room and they're doing performing a C-section, and they are they're performing a C-section, and I noticed that my wife she made like this moaning
Mhm.
noise while she was on the table. So then the doctor said, "Oh yeah, I know you're gonna feel a little pressure, but we're sewing you back up." I said to her, I said, "Well, if they're sewing her back up, then that means our daughter is out, but she didn't cry." So she didn't cry. So obviously,
Mhm.
I'm still trying to keep my wife calm and still trying to show the poker face of, we're good. So I go over to the NICU table, and it was about four doctors around her, 4 or 5 doctors around her, and they had the
Okay.
little breathing thing for her. So when I walked over there, her
Mhm.
hands were like kind of tight. They were like this, and her feet
Mhm.
were kind of tight as well. So they asked me if I wanted to hold her, and I said, "No, I don't want to. I don't want to hold her. I want the first
Yeah.
hold to be with her mom. Like I just feel that. So
Mhm.
I've done that with all of my children. So I was like, the first hold I wanted to be with my mother. I mean, with her mother. So she said, oh, okay, okay. So as soon as I started talking, Elle's eyes opened up, and
Right.
she was looking right at me. So then the nurses were like, "Oh, well, she
Mhm.
must know who her daddy is because she opened her. We've been trying to get her to open her eyes for the
Mhm.
longest time, but she didn't open them. When you came over here, she opened her eyes. So the whole time she was staring at me. She was staring at me, and I'm just sitting there smiling and like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you look so pretty," all the stuff. I was feeling at the moment. Like I said, I didn't want to hold her because I just wanted her mom to get a hug. So when she opened up her eyes,
Mhm.
that made me feel really good because I was like, okay, all right, all right, we're good. So, but I noticed while she was on the table,
Mhm.
like she was twitching a little bit, like it was like little ticks. So they said that they were going to take her back to another part of the hospital and run some tests. This was day one. So later in that day, and when we went to go see her later, they had confirmed that what ultimately happened with her was she was having seizures. And what they ultimately said was they believed that she was having seizures inside of my wife, but no one knew,
Mhm.
like no one knew. They just thought, now, of course, I guess everyone's thinking that, when the baby is moving, that, the baby is just
Right.
moving, just, how babies move. So, but I guess that was what contributed to them doing the C-section early because they said that the movement from my daughter was not looking good. So that's what made them
Mhm.
ultimately want to do the C-section. So they said they're going to give her some medication. It's going to slow down the seizures. And then they gave us this pep talk. They said, we just want to prepare you guys because she may be experiencing some
Mhm.
physical disabilities, like as she gets older. Like if she makes it out of this, which, well, yeah, they said if she makes it out, which she will, they said we're going to prepare you guys because she may just have some serious disabilities. Like they also said that she has
Yeah.
scoliosis. Like they named off a couple things, but the main thing that they wanted to do
Right.
was calm down the seizures. So once again, we know we're believers, so we're
Mhm.
like, oh man, we've been here before. God not going to do us like this. We don't have a problem
Yeah.
with anybody. Everything is good. So day two, the seizures started lightening up. So they were getting like she wasn't having as many seizures as she
Mhm.
was during the first time, during the first day. So obviously we're looking at that as progression. And her breathing was really good. Like her breathing was so good that the doctor said, well, she's breathing really good on her own. She doesn't even need the breathing
Mhm.
tube. Like she's fine breathing. So that gave us hope. So around so on day three, I remember we had my wife had just finished pumping. So she gave me the milk things to go take down to NICU. I don't know what time it was. It was late at night. I don't want to say like 10 o'clock at night or something like that. So I went down to go take the milk to them and to her, and they said I was met by two nurses
Mm-hmm.
inside of the NICU, but like they wouldn't even let me go back. So they was like, well, yeah, right now everything is everything is going okay. You know, Elle just had a seizure, and we're just trying to, you know, get her back straight or whatever. They said we're gonna let you guys know when to come back. So I'm like, okay. So at this time, I didn't even tell my wife. I was just like, man, listen. So when I walked back to the room, I said, yeah, I gave them the milk. So she was like, well, how's she doing? I said, well, I guess she's doing good. They're gonna call us and let us know. So we're sitting back, and it was like a real like the room just went silent at that moment. Like we didn't
Right.
really know what to say to each other. And then one of the nurses came in, and she was a really good nurse. So her and my wife started talking. They talked for about an hour. Like they talked for a good minute about just children and, you know, how long she's been in the nursing field and stuff like that. So they talked for a really long time. So then after
Mm-hmm.
that, we started to get hungry. So I ordered some. We had ordered DoorDash, Wawa. We had
Love.
ordered sandwiches from Wawa's. By this time, it was like maybe two something in the morning. So I went downstairs, got the stuff, came back upstairs. As soon as I sat down, it was like three or four nurses. They came into the room. They was like, "You guys, we have to go right now. You guys need to go be by your daughter's bedside." So one of the nurses literally like picked my wife up, put her in a wheelchair, and like we're going in the NICU. So we're going in the NICU, and it's extremely dark in there. But our daughter was on like she was the first bed on the left when you walk in. So when we walk in, it's extremely dark. You can see the lights from the other machines from the other babies. But it seemed like maybe about 15 doctors like around our daughter. So basically what they ultimately said was she had she had a really bad seizure, and the seizure was so bad that it closed her throat up. And because they took the breathing tube out, because she was breathing so good on her own, when she had the seizure, they couldn't get the breathing tube back in because her throat was so small. So the doctors is telling me this. So at this time, like Joni, my wife, she has her hands over her ears, like she has her head down, she's crying. And I'm just staring, like I'm fairly tall, so I'm staring dead at her. So when I walk in, I'm walking in on them literally trying to revive her, bring her back. So they're trying to do CPR, and they're just, you know, they're just going, and I'm just staring there, and I'm just looking. So they asked me if I wanted to sit down, and I said no. So it was a nurse to the left of me, so I'm standing up, and then my wife, she had about three nurses with her. So they're like holding and consoling her, and she's crying, and I'm crying, but I'm standing up because I couldn't take my eyes off of my daughter. Like I just couldn't do it. So ultimately, that's essentially what happened. She had a really bad seizure, and the seizure was so bad that it closed her throat up, so they couldn't get the breathing tube back in. And then the doctor said, well, hopefully, if we're able to get the breathing tube back in, then the concern then becomes if she has another bad seizure, then we're not able to get
Mm-hmm.
anything out. Like it's gonna trap the breathing tube inside of her. So um that was essentially how she transitioned. She passed, I want to say 2:45 that morning. Um, I would say the first time me and my wife got to hold her was minutes after she passed. So we literally saw her pass right in front of us, like just right in front of us. So um,
Yeah.
it's been rough to watch. I'll never forget that. That is when I walked into the room and I saw them trying to. They were performing CPR on her, and I saw her body, and I just saw them like it was. I just couldn't. It's still hard to kind of um, like I know I have a hard time sleeping at night because a lot of times, like when I close my eyes, I see I'm in, I'm back
Yeah.
into that dark NICU room. So my sleeping is horrible. But yeah, that's ultimately how she
Wow. Well,
passed. So I hope I didn't talk too long. I just kind of
No, I
want to get
first want to
details. So
thank you for just, being so transparent. I know that's probably, not easy to do no matter how many times you speak about it, but just, reliving those moments. I kind of was in a similar situation where I actually was the person who found my mom deceased as well. So that's something, that you never forget. So definitely, again, thank you
right,
for just, sharing that and being transparent. And I wanted to ask you, because you said the stage that you feel like you're in is anger. Typically, when I talk to people, I always tell them I don't really believe, I know there's 5 stages of grief, but I don't really believe they're in any specific order. What would you say to that? Because I feel like some of the
right,
stages I haven't went through yet, but that doesn't mean, like denial, for example. I don't feel like I've went through that stage, but I feel
right.
like maybe when I get married, or maybe when I have my first kid and I'm looking for the grandmother to be there or my mom to be there, I'll have those feelings. So what would you say as far as like the different stages of grief? Do you think it's in any specific order?
I don't think it is. I think because I know for me, I think obviously there's no one all,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, for grief. Like the way you grieve
Right.
versus the way I grieve is totally different. So I can't really say that it
Mm-hmm.
naturally goes in order. I will say that, grief for me is all over the place. Like one minute I'm fine, the
Mm-hmm.
next minute I'm not. So one minute I'm in denial, the next minute I'm angry, the next like I experience all different types. I experience each
Right.
stage, but it's not in order because to me grief doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel organized. So yeah, it doesn't feel organized. It doesn't feel like, okay, you're going to be in this particular stage of grief for 4 months, then you're going to go to this one. Like for me, it's not organized. If anything, it's complete opposite. It's unorganized. You have people that are still grieving over someone that passed away um,
Right.
7 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
8 years ago, 18 years ago, 20 years ago. So it just all depends on how um, just what you have going on personally. I just feel like it's not organized at all. So you can experience on all at different levels. Like I said, I'm
Mm-hmm.
been stuck in the anger stage. If I had to choose a
Mm-hmm.
stage that I was in the most,
Mm-hmm.
is anger. That stage I'm in for the longest, especially because it's not just physical, it's not just
Yeah.
emotional, it's spiritual as well. It's like, God,
Mm-hmm.
why? Like I don't get it. Like what are you doing? I don't understand. This makes no sense. And then it's, of course, if you believe in God, it's more so you're taught that,
Right.
God has all the answers. So if you ever want
Mm-hmm.
anything, turn to the being that has the answers. So now it's all right, I'm going to turn to, the person that has the answer, the being that has all the answers. And I need to get an understanding of why. So there's a level of
Right.
confusion, but more so anger. I'm angry for, my other children that are still here that don't get the opportunity. They
Yeah.
didn't get the opportunity to even meet her. So I'm angry for the opportunities that
Mm-hmm.
won't be able to happen. So
That makes sense.
yeah.
And what's something you want people to know about grief? If you had to think of something. So, like, I'll go first if you want me to. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So like, how people sometimes say it'll get like better with time or easier with time. I think that's
Hmm.
true, but also false at the same
Hmm.
time. I don't really think it get easier. I just think you get better, you get stronger, and over time, you just learn how to deal with it because it's your reality. But I don't ever think it gets easier because, like you said, 20 years from now, it could hit you way different than it hit you a few years ago. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
that's something that I
Hmm.
definitely want people to understand about it. And a lot of times people don't know how to be there for people because they're stuck between, should I give
Hmm.
them their space or, I don't really know what to say. But in reality, just say a prayer for them.
Hmm.
It's so many different ways. So those are just some that I think about off the top of my head.
That's true. That's true. That's true. I agree with everything you said. The statement that you just made as far as, I know the ones that are particular statements that a lot of people tend to use are, yeah, time heals all wounds. Um,
Hmm.
God has a plan, or
Yeah.
God doesn't make any mistakes. Trying to think of one. There's another one. I forgot that, but I'm sure it'll pop back up. If I could share with anybody, um, about grief, I think
Hmm.
it's more so on your own time. I think that is very important to grieve on your own
Yeah.
time and not the timing of others, whether they can relate to you or not. I think that it is important for you to face your grief. Attend support groups. Like right now, I'm in a support group. I've been in a support group ever since. Like I'm in like two support groups. So that moment in those support groups, it allows me to share what I'm feeling, what I'm going through, to let me know that I'm not alone. Because for the longest time, I
Hmm.
felt alone because I don't really know too many people, at least that, to my understanding, I don't really know that many people that are currently or have gone
Right.
through the same type of grief. Um, so, and it's easy, like I say, it's easy for people to give you advice on something
Hmm.
when they haven't experienced it. So I'm the type of person, if you tell me something that you're going through and and I don't know what it feels like you said, I'll say a prayer for you
Yeah.
and I'll sit in silence. I want to be a listening ear for you. I'm not going to try to fill the air with motivational quotes because I feel
Yeah.
like you need to hear it. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like a lot of people just tend to do that. Or a lot of people might say, "Oh, I'm gonna
Right.
pray for you," and don't even pray.
Hmm.
I hear that a lot. So I think that is grief. Do it on your own time. There's never a right time for you to get up. There are many times, many days, even currently, I still have a hard time getting out of bed. Every day, I have an extremely hard time getting out of bed. So every day for me is uncomfortable, but I try to find some type of light in
Hmm.
during my uncomfortable days. Um, and understanding that grief is something that the grief I feel it's like I learned in my support group. It's like the grief somewhat feels like it stays the same size. The key to it is learning how to live and
Hmm.
grow around the grief. That's the hard part. Just trying to grow around and progress
Right.
while grieving. That's the difficult part. So grieve on your own time. You're not in it alone. Um, and I just realized for me, like I'm responsible for
Hmm.
my progression. So now with the passing of my daughter, like I'm more in tune with my emotions, I guess. Because for the first time in my life, I fully had to address, I have to come out and say,
Yeah.
I'm not doing okay. Or if I have a moment where I cry. Like I've literally cried from the day my daughter passed. I cried every day from April 3rd, I would say all the way up until we in 2022. I would say probably until like February, like
Wow.
mid-February of this year. So I cried every
Hmm.
day at some point. At some point, I've cried every day. So, obviously, I'm not used to that type of
Hmm.
showing that type of emotion. But it's I'm at a point where this is something that like it's my daughter, like that's my baby. So this grief has forced me to really look at my emotions and put in serious work to just try to
Yeah.
not more so heal,
I love
but live and grow. Because I do
it.
think it's possible to grow in grief. Because every time I step out of the door, I'm taking my family with me. I'm taking my queen with me. I'm taking my kids with me. Though my daughter passed away,
Exactly.
I'm still taking her with me. So
Wow, you said so many
yeah,
things, and before I address some of the things you said, Jovan said, sometimes I guilt myself because of the way I cope with my grieving. I try not to think of the person I lost because when I do, I break down. And I can totally relate to that. I might come across a picture of my mom and I'll scroll past it real quick because I don't want to feel sad. I don't want to acknowledge, those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it could be out of the blue. So I always tell people, when you do experience, those emotions, and whatever you're feeling, definitely deal with it, acknowledge it. But I could totally relate to, not trying to think about the person on purpose, because I don't want to put myself
Mm-hmm.
back in that situation, or put myself in a mood that I don't want to be in. Yeah. I don't know if
Right.
you
Right.
feel that way too. Like maybe,
Oh,
mm,
totally understand. Like I said, it goes back to a person is entitled to grieve
right.
however, whatever works for them. So
Hmm.
I totally get it. So it's, I just, I know for me, I was pretty much brought up in a society where it's like I had to, as a guy, hold in my feelings and hold in my emotions. And even though you may not have the answers, you need to look like you need to have it all
Hmm.
together. You're the man. You can't show emotions. You can never cry. That's a sign of weakness. So obviously, with this grief, with this experience and this, it's the complete opposite. So, you know, I would say, for me, it took me a while to know, or it took me a while to understand that, what, it is okay for me to break down. It is okay for me to cry. Like, all right, man, forget
Yeah.
what I was taught
Hmm.
because it was wrong. Like
Right.
I was taught something that was wrong. So for me, it's like, no, it's okay for me to cry. If I'm gonna cry,
That's
why
what's
not shed tears over my daughter? Or why not shed tears over this loved
hmm
one or my grandfather, whoever? Like these are people that mean something to me and have made impacts on my life. So if I'm gonna break down, hey, listen, if it happens, it happens. If I happen to shed tears while we on this
That's it.
live, so be it. It's cool. Whereas before my daughter passed, I would be like, no, I'm not
Hmm.
gonna do that. I can't do it. But at the end of the day, listen, man, everybody is entitled to grieve how they choose. So I can't tell a person how to grieve. I will say that it is okay for you to cry. It is okay for you to have them moments. It's okay for you to have one of those cries where, like I said,
Yeah.
I cry for months every day. I would cry myself to sleep. I don't ever remember crying myself to sleep
Right.
unless I got a spanking or something when I was a kid. But other than that, it was as a grown adult, I've never cried myself
Yeah.
to sleep consistently and then have to get up the following day and go to work and go do this and, go out into a world where even though my loved one passed away,
Right.
the world kept going.
I was
So,
going to ask you, because I was saying, you said so many things. Just being a man, and I'm glad you touched on it. Like you said,
mhm.
society. I'm pretty sure you've been taught, like you said, to not show emotions or weakness, and crying and all that stuff is a sign of weakness. So I'm glad you touched on that, and you let the guys know. It is okay. To grieve. It is okay to cry, especially over
Mhm.
your daughter. You know, glad that you touched on that, because
Facts.
that's something that you had to learn, right? Because like you said before, you never did it,
Hmm.
but in this particular situation, you felt as
Right.
though you needed to. So that's awesome.
Right.
And then another thing that I wanted to touch on that you said was you went to some support groups, because I know that's something that I haven't personally attended. How has that experience been? Do you feel like it's been helpful? Mm-hmm.
For me, it absolutely it absolutely worked. It forced me to
Mm-hmm.
address my feelings. It forced me to put in the work to really understand my emotions. So I was able to come into a support group and say, you know what, today is just not a good day. So if I went into the support group and I didn't say anything for the whole session, I just didn't say anything because it was a group session. So everyone there
Mm-hmm.
experienced the same type of loss. They may have experienced their child may have passed earlier than ours. Their child may have passed later than ours, but ultimately it was the same loss. So everyone in there um, experienced the same thing. So it's important for me to at least be around people
Mm-hmm.
that provide a safe space for me to talk and to not judge me, but just hear what I'm saying. Because when we were in the room, we were talking and sharing our feelings about how, sharing our feelings about things. And, no one judged anybody because we understood, you know, what each other were thinking, what each other was feeling. So the support group mainly just helped me focus on highlight and address my feelings instead of running from my emotions or running from grief. It pretty much encouraged me to face it like straight up. Because this, like I said, for the first time in my life, I really am fully having to face it straight up. The last time I experienced a loss, I want to say my grandmother. My grandmother was 93, who ironically, that's who we named my daughter after. My daughter's name is El Amor. My daughter's name is El Amor Doctor. So my grandmother,
Mm,
her name was Eleanor. So what we did was we chopped up the name. Like if you say El or more together,
right.
it sounds like you're saying Eleanor.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really
That's
want to
an
name her
old school
Eleanor. Even
name.
though my grandmother had a good name, I was like, yeah, I wanted to give her like a pretty, something that was
Yeah.
like 2022.
Beautiful name too. Beautiful.
So thank you so much. So that was it pretty much for the first time in my life. Because when my grandmother passed, she was like 92, 93 years old. So um she got to witness so much. She got to witness so many generations. So, of course I cried because I was sad, but I didn't handle hers as hard
Yeah.
because I'm like, well, what
She
more can
lived
I
a
ask
good
for? She was
life.
90
Yeah.
in her 90s. So,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. She had a really good life. My grandfather, when he passed, I was 16. I didn't handle his grief well at all, at all. So that's what I ultimately place the importance of addressing grief to my daughter because I didn't handle his well at all. Like that's when I kind of started my downward spiral in my life and
Mm-hmm.
made questionable decisions. But with my daughter, like I said, I owe it to myself and my family to just address my grief. So that's essentially how the support groups help me. It just helped me to address it and not run away from it. Pretty much looking forward to being uncomfortable in it because that's what
Mm-hmm.
essentially it was for me in the support group. I'm pretty much sharing my feelings in a room full of people that I don't know, but we share the same outcome. So they know me much better than the people
Right.
that I grew up with. And I just met them. So it just forced me to adjust my feelings and identify how I'm feeling. If I don't feel okay, it's okay to say you're not
Right.
feeling okay.
I love it. So Mila, I hope I said it right. Mila Camilla, she said, I lost my son when he was 4, 23 years ago. I still cry like it was yesterday. So again, it just kind of that
Oh,
same.
that's family. That's Camellia. Hey, Camellia. Man, yes. Torrance. Little
So it
cousin
just
Torrance.
goes
Yes,
back
sir.
to what we
That's
were
that's my
saying.
family
Like
right
it
there.
doesn't matter how many years it's been. Like it's a continuous process.
Hmm.
And my love definitely goes to
Hmm.
her
That's
for sure.
love
Yes.
you,
And so
Camellia.
I know you said that you did like
Yeah, she
some support groups, but did you guys do any type of counseling or therapy?
yes, we'll get into that. I know
Oh,
my wife, she's doing counseling. She's doing individual counseling. I know for me, I said I wanted
okay.
to do support groups first. But we're definitely going to do so she's like I said, she's already in we did
Okay.
one of our support groups together, and then she's doing the individual counseling now. Um, and then I know, like I said, on my side, I'm also just doing just the support
Okay.
groups. One of them is virtual, but we're definitely going to do. Well, I'm definitely going to do individual, and we're definitely going to do together therapy as well because
Mhm.
this grief is too heavy. It's too it's too heavy to hold. So the goal is, like I said, just trying to grow within our grief,
Right.
cry if we must, not feeling guilty about, laughing, because that's the hard part about grief sometimes. Sometimes I know for me, I felt like I didn't even deserve happiness. So sometimes if I smiled and somebody reminded me that I smiled or I laughed, I would feel bad because in my mind, I'm thinking during this grieving season, I
Right.
shouldn't be laughing at anything. But that's one of the things that the support group taught me was, it's okay to, if you happen to
Yeah.
see something funny, it's okay to laugh, though you're still grieving, it's okay to do certain things. So um, that was when, like I said, that's definitely something that I learned from support group. And then, of course, still trying to
Mm-hmm.
parent after you lost a child,
Mm-hmm.
that is extremely tough because there's many times that, for my children that are still here, like there are times where I
Yeah,
feel like I'm detached from them. I feel like I'm not really emotionally there sometimes because sometimes I'm still trying to process. I'm still trying to do certain stuff. So it's extremely hard trying to parent when you have to bury one. So
I can imagine,
that's tough
especially
too.
when you're not feeling
So,
your best. You know what I mean? You want to give your kids the best.
right,
And how can you give anybody your best if you're
right,
not your best? Yeah.
right,
What would you say?
right.
Yeah.
You
What would
right.
you say keeps you going? I definitely know it would be the kids for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Queen.
My queen is amazing. She is amazing. She keeps me going. Obviously my kids. Those
Yeah.
my kids keep me going. Um, my friends, my friends that actually
Hmm.
allow for me to have a safe space and talk, that keeps me going because, even though they they're not really able to relate to this type of grief, I do enjoy the fact that whenever I talk about
Yeah.
L, like they just let me do it. And because I don't want to be that friend where it's like, oh, I don't want to talk to him. All he
Hmm.
gonna talk about is his daughter all the time. I ain't trying to, you know what I'm saying? So they allow for me to talk about my grief. Um, what else? Who keeps me going? My mother-in-law. She sent me text messages
Wow.
almost every day after my daughter passed. She sent me text messages like, if not every day, every other day. Something along the lines of, just inspirational, motivational. I love you. Have a great day, type stuff. Just I would say those, my friends. Um, even though I gotta be completely honest with you, even though I am struggling spiritually,
Yeah.
I took a huge hit. I will say to an extent,
Yeah.
God is keeping me going. Even
Hmm.
though, and being completely honest, there are my
Yeah.
moments where I'm extremely mad at him because I still don't understand. I still would be uh my foundation and core of who I am um is in him, even though I'm not perfect and all that stuff. My core of who I am still is in him, but just being transparent because I think sometimes, it's easy to address many different other areas of grief as far as physical and emotional, but spiritually, you know, what
Yeah.
happens when you're a believer and
Hmm.
things don't go the way you want it to go, or God doesn't allow for this person to stay, how do you react or stuff like that. So I would say, even though I'm still working on put a little distance between me and God, I would be a fool to say that I'm
Right.
here without him. He's
Right.
still I still rock with him.
I just got some
It's
things to
just
work
I'm
out.
still a little angry. I just got some things to work out. It's those middle of the night
Hmm.
why me God cries or why God cries. But like I said, I would be a fool to not
Yeah, I can
mention him.
totally
So
relate. When I first lost my mom, I did not pray. I didn't want to talk. I don't want to pray, But like you said, I would be a fool. We would be a fool to think it isn't God's grace that's carrying us this far. And even when I think about the times when I couldn't pray, I know people were praying for me. They told me they were praying for me. I felt they were
right.
praying for me. That's the only reason I was able to carry on and to keep going. So I can totally relate to that feeling because, like you said, when you are a believer, you start to question. Even though in the Bible they say they wouldn't want to be with him, what better place to be? It's like, nah, the better place is with me,
Mhm.
you know.
E-
So
exactly.
I totally can relate to
Exactly.
that for sure.
Exactly.
Let me see. What other
Absolutely.
questions? Do. Okay. Um, for parents who have experienced losing a child, what advice do you have for them?
That is a good question. I will say continue to hold on to the memories of your children or of that child,
Hmm.
whatever that looks like. We have a when Elle passed away, they gave us two boxes. One box was uh, a box with a butterfly on it, and they had a dress and some of the clothes and some of the blankets that they had her in. And then they had like a piece of hair that they had cut from her in the box. So they had a bracelet for her. They had some of the stuff that she, like I said, that she had in her, I think,
Hmm.
little bassinet or whatever you call it in the hospital. And then they gave us this big box, and on the side of it, it said, I think, with sympathy and love or something like that. And it was
Hmm.
like a lamb. I think that's what it's called, a lamb. My 4-year-old daughter, she walks around with that thing almost every day. Um, I say all that to say I didn't get, we didn't
Yeah.
get that many pictures, of our daughter. So we didn't get videos. We didn't get to experience the things that, our 4-year-old experiences and, my 14-year-old son gets to experience. He's about to go off to high school, next year. So understanding that, a daughter is not going to be able to have that opportunity. But one of the things that I will say is hold on to the memories of your child. One of the things I will say is continue to, I
Hmm.
guess, more so push through for them. I feel like our daughter is rooting for us on the other side. Like I feel like she's rooting for us. That's one of the things that keeps me going. I'm also in school right now as well, and I thought about dropping out of school several times. I thought about dropping out of school. I literally, my when Elle passed away, I literally had a test due like 2 days later. I don't know how I passed this test because I
Right.
really obviously wasn't focused on it. Um, I would say just using her memories as motivation to continue to push forward and grow, and just take her with me, and just take her with us. Just take your child with you. Just hold on to their memories. If you believe in God, because every parent doesn't believe in God. So, I do think that, if you're a believer in God, it can be
Yes.
difficult, speaking from experience, but definitely trust in God. Definitely have a
Hmm.
good support system. That is
Very key.
crucial. That is key, along with, having a solid, faith foundation. That is important. So make sure that every time you step out of the door, you are honoring your child and whatever you do. It's okay to have moments. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel tired. It's okay to feel weak. You don't have to
Hmm.
be strong every day. It's okay to feel weak. It's okay to not have the answers. It's okay to, go through the
Right.
different stages of grief. But long as you take your children's or your child's name and legacy with you everywhere, that's why I appreciate you once again for um, inviting me on your platform, because it gives me an opportunity to not only talk about grief, but it also gives me an opportunity to say my daughter's name was
I
Elle
love it.
Amore Doctor and she was here, right? So continue to live. It's going to be for parents, it's tough days when you have to bury your children because that's not the way you see life. You see it the other way around. As a
Right.
parent, I want my children to bury me. I don't want to have to bury, a child. So yeah, that's
Okay.
advice I
Okay.
have.
And if your daughter was here right now, what would you tell her?
If she was here right now, I would probably tell her to sit down somewhere because she would probably be she would probably be running around somewhere with her big sister. They would
Hmm.
probably be doing something that they don't have any business doing. But just being able to just I look at my children. My children give me so much joy. They give me, I can't really put it into words. So like I know I would be extremely I would be every day I'm also looking at my children and I'm in
Yes.
awe of them. So it's like I look at them and I'm like, man, I can't believe like they're mine. Like this is dope. So if she was here, I would definitely be, you know, all over her like I'm over her, her brother and sister. So but I'm pretty sure, like I said, if she was here,
Right.
she would
Because that's
probably
what
be doing
kids do.
something that she, just
Hmm.
that's what kids do. So we would be preparing for her birthday. So we would probably be hiding gifts somewhere around the
Right.
house so she won't get into it. or hiding the gifts in the trunk of our cars or something like that. But you know, that's still my baby. So we still have to, we're still gonna, you know, honor her in a way that just keep her with us. So,
Well,
you
that's
know,
awesome. Well, I don't think I have any more questions for you. Do you have any questions for me? Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So I would say to you, I would say to you, in response to, as you asked me, as far as someone that has, you
Mhm.
know, a parent that has lost a child, what is your message to someone who has lost a parent?
So I would definitely say to keep going. Although they are not here with us physically, like you said, they're still here with us spiritually, and at the end of the day, I want to make her proud as if she was still here, that I think that's the goal. That should be anybody's goal, like one of my goals if she was here would be to retire her, and so being as
Mm,
though she's not, I still want to make her proud because at the end of the day, she's watching me, she's guiding me. She's instilled so
right,
many things in me. It would only be right for me to go out and do right by her and keep her legacy going. It's funny, like people always be like,
right,
you look just like your mom, or, you're truly your mom's child and stuff. And so when I hear stuff like that, that just brings me joy. That lets me know I'm on the right path. So for anybody who has, lost a parent, make them proud. Know that they're always with you. They're with you in spirit. Know that you have a what's the word I'm looking for? A protector. When you go out into the world, like you have a
right,
guardian angel. Like I feel blessed anytime I'm out because I'm like, oh, I'm already covered. You know what I mean? I feel like I have two people. I have God and
right,
then I have her. So how could I lose? And so
right.
just keep going. Make them proud. They're watching you.
Yeah, that is, uh, mm, mm, mm. Grief sucks, man. Grieving is Grief sucks, but it's we
Yeah.
just got to grow around it. You know, we just got to grow around it, experience the different feelings and emotions. But such is life.
Yeah.
Such is
Well,
life.
God got us for
I
sure.
see some more mess.
It says only His grace that's
Yeah,
carried us this far,
yeah,
and your baby girl is watching over you. So you just got to make her proud, because she's watching both of you, and even though you can't hold her, she's holding
absolutely.
y'all down, and y'all have to be strong for your other
I agree.
little ones. And like you said, I love how you said just keep her memory
Yeah,
alive. Like just because she's not here, that don't mean that she's not here, you know. So
absolutely, absolutely. That's absolutely. I
absolutely.
appreciate that. I see some more South Boston family here. I see some
We
more South
appreciate
Boston family
everybody that
here.
stayed on too. We had a pretty nice flow. Nobody really dropped off for real. I definitely appreciate everybody tuning in.
Absolutely, absolutely. I once again want to thank you for the platform. Definitely um, love your hoodie, love your
Thank you.
work, love your message. Definitely continue to keep doing what you're doing because, of course, you know, grief is
Hmm.
impacting so many, you know, including myself, my household. So I definitely appreciate, you know, what you're doing and your message. And I definitely thank you for the
Thank
opportunity
you. I
once
look
again.
forward to
So
doing more work with you together. I look forward to meeting your queen. And I look
mhm.
forward to us just keep sharing our story and helping and encouraging more people. So thank you for even agreeing to do this, especially around the anniversary. And happy early birthday to your baby girl.
Yeah, happy birthday, Al.
All
I appreciate that so much. I appreciate it so
right.
much.
Well, this is it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll post the link as soon as it's available on YouTube. I'll send it to you. And yeah, we'll probably do this again in the future or in person. We'll figure it out.
I'm down. I'm down. Shout out to my South Boston family. I see
Love
y'all. I
it. All
love
right,
y'all.
guys. Stay safe. Be blessed. Have a good evening. And thank you so much again. All right.